All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh. Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachah, Kodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of great millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere and hopeful elect Akim, Ma'ah Rabbi, my Rabbi Alap, which is to say 144,000, Sha'ar Yath, which is remnant, Chad Shalayashim, which is 1/3, and Bachayaryam, which is elect. All right, those are the categories and numbers which Yahweh Shem Yahushua is dealing with in these last days, and we pray that we are a part of, that number. So shalom to you, hopefully like Akim. All right, so back with some updates with the U.S. Navy. All right, and the source is the Independent. And as you see from the title, it says sailors on USS Lincoln outside Iran are exhausted and suffering from poor morale on ship, families warn. So, these soldiers, or sailors, should I say, obviously didn't count the cost. All right, personally, with the military, there's a large portion of the military that soldiers and sailors, Marines, airmen that enlist and highly doubt that they will ever be in a combat situation, or if they are in a combat situation, they assume that, they'll get deployed more so on a peacekeeping mission. They won't be in the direct line of fire. They won't see, actual combat. They'll collect the check, receive that hazardous pay, and come back stateside and ball out. That's the mentality that a lot of, servicemen, have. All right. But now we see that the Most High is, changing the whole landscape. You got soldiers and sailors who are experiencing the opposite side of the coin. All right, being, them having to be engaged in their actual job. They're actually having to fulfill worst case scenario, so to say, within the capacity of what their job title calls for on an actual deployment. And they don't like it. All right, they do not like it. So, they're complaining. They all bitch made. You know what I'm saying? You sign up for the military, and now that you actually have to fulfill the part of being a sailor or a Marine or a soldier or airman, that you knew was a possibility. Now your morale's all down, and you're exhausted and you're suffering and you got mental issues and all this bullshit. But America is supposed to be the greatest country on the earth. It's supposed to have the best military, the bravest soldiers and servicemen and all. It's a bunch of BS, man. All right, so I'm gonna read some of this article and grab some precepts. So it says, apparently the ship's doctor or therapist said they need to hit port soon, or people are going to start, losing their minds, says Bonnie York, whose stepson serves on the carrier. All right, so this is dated Thursday, August 6th. So it says morale is plummeting on the American aircraft carrier that's running short on food and other supplies. So let me close this out. Okay, food or other supplies as its exhausted crew wages President Donald Trump's war against Iran, worried family members say. So they're running low on food and supplies, man. All right, and it's gonna get into it in an article. It says sailors and Marines serving on the USS Abraham Lincoln have told relatives about being served a half cup of rice and two tortillas for a meal. The struggle meal, man. All right. It said the ship's store often lacks soap, deodorant, and toothpaste. MS Now reported Wednesday. So it's a bunch of funky ass people on that you know um, ship or aircraft carrier. It says crew members are now worn out by working long, grueling shifts, with some rarely getting a day off, and described broken toilets, moldy showers without hot water, and no laundry service for weeks at a time, relatives said. So they on a floating damn jail, a prison, a damn slumdog millionaire prison, floating on the water. Okay. It says the morale is not good, said Bonnie York, whose stepson is aboard the Lincoln. Apparently, the ship's doctor or therapist said they need to hit port soon or people are going to start, losing their minds. The Lincoln and its more than 5,000 personnel arrived in the Middle East in January after leaving its home port of San Diego in November, according to MS Now. So these niggas left uh, in November and got to the Middle East in January. So these niggas been gone damn near a whole year. All right. 9 months. They've been at sea 9 months. Okay. It says Trump launched a war against Iran without congressional approval on February 28th and initially said it would last 4 to 5 weeks, which was a lie. We brothers in the truth, the men of the Lord, we knew that was a lie when he said that. All right, you ain't about to go over to Iran and dust them niggas off in a month and come back victorious. You know, anybody with a logical brain knew that was all a lie. Okay, it says on Wednesday he said a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and help end the war could be announced this week, according to the Associated Press. Which he's just throwing things out there because when you look at alternative media channels, you'll find out that the Iranians are done with any type of peace deals or negotiations or talks. Even a MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, they're done with that as well. All right, but here in the West, the media, the White House will just throw out meaningless, erroneous information and titles just to pacify the people, which nothing that the White House can do is actually going to pacify the people. Okay. It says Navy veteran Brett Snow, whose son is also on the Lincoln, warned that conditions on the ship could lead to disaster, noting that an aircraft carrier was an extremely hazardous workplace even during peacetime. It's the most dangerous place in the world already, and now you're grinding it out day in and day out with no breaks, Snow said. It's an environment that's ripe for accidents. An unidentified father, who's also a Navy veteran, reportedly said his son described seeing holes that have worn through the ship's deck. Representative Sarah Jacobs, a California Democrat who represents the Lincoln's home port of San Diego, told MS Now She was deeply worried about the crew's exhaustion and mental health because history has shown it can lead to serious consequences, including increased risk of suicide. And best believe that's going to be going on, man. They ain't going to wait to get back home to do that. Once this war pops off, like really pops off, and you know, more troops get sent over there, man, you're going to have extreme cases of suicide. All right. Even some of these sailors on this, especially women, man, on this ship, on this aircraft carrier, man, gonna be, taking themselves out, man. Best believe it. Okay. It says the Navy didn't immediately respond to an inquiry from the independent commander Joseph Hunts, which sounds like a small hat, told MS Now there were no holes in the deck and said the crew has repaired wear and tear when needed. Hunt's spokesperson for the Navy's Fifth Fleet also acknowledged the strain on the ship's more than 5,000 crew members, but said that Lincoln remains fully capable of meeting all mission tasking. Though more than 250 days on deployment is challenging for the crew and their equipment, they remain resilient and ready to accomplish any tasking given them. He said in April, Secretary of Defense Pete Hedgehog denied there were food shortages on the Lincoln and the U.S. Tripoli, calling it fake news after USA Today published photos of small portions of what is called gross food served to sailors and Marines. Nicole Conrad, whose son is serving on the Lincoln, told MS Now she wanted Hegseth to personally check on the conditions there. Go visit. If you want to sit here and you want to say that Trump is taking care of the soldiers, go yourself, she said. Which these people don't care. This dude, look at this dude. Do you really think he cares about the conditions that those soldiers and sailors, Marines, airmen are actually dealing with aboard that aircraft carrier? This dude can care less, man. This is all a game to these elites. All right. Oh, you sunk my battleship. They got the damn game, man. Back in the days, that battleship game where you strategize and blow up certain ships and do this and do that. This is all one, live game to the elites, man. All right, on both sides. It says Conrad and the two other parents who spoke to MS Now said they had voted for Trump, but were unhappy with his decision to go to war with Iran. All right, like an idiot, they voted for this guy. He put our nose in a war that we shouldn't be in, Conrad said. York said she voted for Trump because he said he wasn't going to war, but now believed we are sacrificing for something that none of us want to be a part of, essentially. Okay? I don't think we're safer, she said. I think we've depleted a lot of things. I think we've pushed our military to the edge. And you got Scott Ritter out there, as well as other, Colonel McGregor, other colonels and individuals that were in the military, high-ranking individuals that were in the military that flat out tell you that America has depleted a lot of its munitions. All right, a lot of munition and systems that were set up in portions of the Pacific, Southeast Asia. All right, American weaponry that was stationed, in the Philippines and in various, Southeast Asian countries have been pretty much relocated to help fight against Iran. All right, so those munitions is all spent. Okay, so It's not looking good. All right. So it says snow. Well, it says I don't think we're safer. She said I think we've depleted a lot of things. I think we've pushed our military to the edge, which is a fact. All right. Snow, the Navy veteran, said he agreed with Trump that Iran should be denied nuclear weapons, but added that he didn't think the president's strategy was working. And a lot of these stupid ass Americans, they'll sit up and say, "Oh yeah, they're pro-America." They got duped into voting for this demon that's in office, which what the things he's done while in office clearly prove that he's unfit to lead this country, but they still, are patriotic. They still think someone else can get into office and do better, you know, and also they feel like he stated that Iran should be denied a nuclear weapon. Yet your country has nukes and went and waged war against a country, that was minding his business. So why should these people who, this nation that's minding its business, all right, and get war waged on it from a nation that has nuclear weapons, why shouldn't they be able to even out the odds? All right, being that they attain a nuclear weapon too. All right, these so-called Americans, man, are unreasonable. All right, it says I don't think if we're ever going to be able. I don't think if we're ever going to be able to achieve any kind of reasonable anything that even comes close to what Americans might consider a victory, he said. And he's right. All right. They lost already. Babylon has lost this war. All right. And prophecy states that. All right. So here in Jeremiah 51 and 30, it says, "The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken." In the NLT, it says, "Her mightiest warriors no longer fight. They stay in their barracks. Their courage gone." All right. So, on that ship, the USS Lincoln, you got a lot of soldiers and sailors, or Marines and sailors and airmen that all they want to do is go home. They don't want to fight. They don't want to engage the enemy. They want to go home. To their wife and kids. All right, if they had the opportunity, they'd go AWOL. And that's the warriors no longer wanting to fight, man. All right, that's prophecy. It says they have become like women. All right, bitch made American sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines. Okay, the invaders have burned the houses and broken down the city gates, and ultimately, that's gonna happen by way of nuclear fire. That's gonna come from these nuclear capable countries such as Russia and China. All right. And France has nukes as well. Pakistan. All right. So this is Jeremiah 49 and verse 18. I'm going to read this in the NLT. It says, "It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighboring towns, says Yahweh. No one will live there. No one will inhabit it. All right. And that's what America is going to be turned into. It's going to be turned into straight desert, just as Sodom and Gomorrah currently is a desert wasteland. All right, that's the fate of Babylon the Great. Verse 19, it says, I will come like a lion from the thickets of the Jordan, leaping on the sheep in the pasture. I will chase Edom from its land, and I will appoint the leader of my choice. Okay, so the Most High is getting ready to bring judgment upon Esau, Edom as a nation. Okay, because when you look at Jordan, all right, or the Jordan River, that the Jordan River separates, our land, and the land of Edom, all right, Moab and Ammon, they'd be east of the Jordan, and Israel is west of the Jordan. Okay, so the Most High is, Yahweh Shai is, when he returns, his main focus is going to be on the Edomites. Okay, it says, I will chase Edom from his land and will appoint the leader of my choice. And that leader of the Heavenly Father's choice is going to be, first and foremost, Yahweh Shai, and underneath Yahweh Shai, King David. All right. It says, for who is like me and who can challenge me? What ruler can oppose my will? And right now we see Esau in the earth trying to oppose the will of Yahweh Shem Shai via taking the actions that he's taking. But it's all in vain because nothing Esau is doing is working out for him. All right, they're getting their ass kicked over in the Middle East. All right, and going to take the ultimate ass whooping, take the ultimate L when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay. Verse 20, it says, listen to the Lord Yahweh's plans against Edom and the people of Teman. All right, which Teman is the Germans. All right, which, you had those German scientists that aided America as well as Russia, with the so-called space race, and ultimately, splitting the atom and making nukes and all that. All right. It says, even the little children will be dragged off like sheep, and their homes will be destroyed. So the Most High is not going to have mercy on any of the Edomites in the times to come. Okay. The same way Esau didn't have mercy on old or young, maids, little children, of the Israelites, what goes around comes around. All right. Because when those nukes touch down upon America, it's not going to skip over a house, some young woman whose husband is overseas getting, he don't die. She don't even know it, but his ass is dead already via World War III. And her and some newborn that the husband ain't even met yet. The missiles ain't going to skip over that house. I'm going to destroy all this, but she's so-called innocent little baby. No, the missiles is not going to discriminate. All right. Everything's going to be destroyed here on the soils of Babylon the Great, aka America. Verse 21, it says, the earth will shake with the noise of Edom's fall. All right, because Edom's fall is coming by way of thermonuclear destruction, and his cry of despair will be heard all the way to the Red Sea. And where is the USS Abraham Lincoln? It's over in that region. All right, over in that region, in the Red Sea. You got the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is over in that region, where World War III will be fought, which is modern day Saudi Arabia. All right, so those nukes Esau's ass is gonna get handed to him over in that region. All right. And then here in America, this place is gonna get dusted. So Esau's military is gonna get dusted over in the Middle East. All right, all those militaries for that matter, by way of Yahushua, destroying all those armies and militaries. And then here in America, you're gonna have the nukes finish off the Edomites here in America. All right. Verse 22, it says, "Look, the enemy swoops down like an eagle, spreading his wings over Basra. Even the mightiest warriors will be in anguish like a woman in labor." Okay, so Basra was a chief place in Edom. And Esau, his mightiest warriors, all right, all those warriors that's gonna be gathered over in the valley of Jehoshaphat, as I mentioned, is gonna cower when they see Yahweh Shai and the angels, you know, uh, come from a whole different realm, a realm that you know they can't even put their mind around, can't even wrap their mind around where Yahweh Shai in the heavenly hosts of angels appeared from, you know. So I just want to bring that article and a couple precepts out, man. These U.S. Marines and sailors and soldiers and airmen is not equipped for what's coming, man. Things ain't even got close to its climax, and you got the sailors and airmen and Marines bitching up already, but they signed up for that. All right. So, I pray this was edifying. Until next time, I say shalom.